Welcome back to Midday. Our first guest today, Matt Livingston from Fulton and Company. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're talking about buying and selling a home, and it's all to do with this summer, things to consider. So you have the tips. Maybe you can start us off with really what the most important things to consider is.
Right, yeah. I mean, the market's heating up, and this is the busiest time for it. So the first question that I usually get is, should I hire a realtor? So, I mean, if you're a seller, I realize that the commission can be a hard pill to swallow because that comes out of the sale price.
Right.
But you really can't put a price on the guidance that a realtor can provide you. They're going to list your home. They're going to show your home. They're going to help you negotiate the contract. They're going to do all that for you. So
takes away a little bit of the stress, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then if you're on the purchasing side, I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer to have a realtor kind of guide you through the purchase process because the purchaser's realtor actually gets paid out of the vendor's realtor's commission. So if you are a purchaser and you hire a realtor to show you around, you don't actually have to pay them in the long run. So
good to know. Negotiating the contract, I know that this can sometimes be confusing for some people.
Right, and so this is where it's important to have have someone guide you through the process. So some things to think about if you're the purchaser is what kind of subjects that you want to have as part of the contract, okay? So subjects are like an escape clause. So you want to buy the house, but your purchase of the house is subject to certain conditions.
Okay.
So the ones that you want to have in there is if you need to get a mortgage, well, you want to make sure that it's subject to financing because you don't want to be stuck buying a house and then you can't get a mortgage and then you can't get the funds to actually purchase the house.
Right.
It can cause issues. So
Yes.
You want to include that. I mean, this is a bit selfish from my point, but I think that you should include a subject clause that says subject to your lawyer's review of the contract, because then we can kind of
important.
Yeah,
though, right?
a lot of times I don't get to give any input on the contract, so it's kind of nice from my point of view. And one that we ran into last summer a lot was actually insurance issues. So make the purchase of the house subject to insurance. And this is especially important in fire season because we ran into issues last summer where you put in an offer in a home and then a fire pops up and the insurer decides that they don't want to insure the property because it's within 50 kilometers of a fire. Well, if you didn't have a subject clause in there dealing with that, then you might be stuck buying a house that you can't actually purchase.
Right, and that's really important in this area of the province, especially. I would think. Yeah. When you're closing the deal, you as a lawyer would have a role in this. What would that be? Right.
So this is actually usually where my role starts.
Yeah.
So I get a subject-free deal, is what we say, from the realtor's office. They send us the contract, and then the purchasing side or the purchaser's lawyer is the one who prepares all the documents in the transaction.
Okay.
So some things for the purchasers to think about, and something that they don't always factor in, is the property transfer tax.
So we all know about that. Well, if you own a house, you do, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So the starting point with any transaction or any purchase is that property transfer tax is applicable. So it's 1% on the first 200,000, 2% on every 100,000 after that. If you're lucky enough to be buying a house over 2 million, well, then property transfer tax is 3% on anything above that. But there are some exemptions that apply, so you'll want your lawyer to try and fit within one of those exemptions so you don't have to pay property transfer tax.
Okay, and we all know that there's a lot to consider when buying or selling a home, but a lot of things can go wrong.
Right.
We just have to throw that out there because people do need to know that there can be some issues. What kind of things could go wrong in this process?
I mean, we see all types of things. Unfortunately, sometimes it comes to us where the contract is negotiated, so you can't really factor anything into the contract. But you want to make sure that you deal with, well, what items are going to be left behind.
Right.
So sometimes a purchaser will go to a house and they'll see all these wonderful things. They'll see TV mounts, they'll see speakers and all this type of stuff. And they think that's included as part of the transaction. Well, then they get there on closing date and all that stuff is gone.
Right.
And they say, well, what happened? Where is all of it?
Yes. So know that before.
No going in. And again, brings back to the comments about having a realtor and a lawyer look at the contract. We can kind of let you know what's going on. But at the end of the day, I mean, if something does go wrong, the most important thing is give your lawyer a shout, and we can kind of guide you through the process and what the next steps are.
Good. Well, a busy season coming up for you, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
From Fulton and Company, of course. More information at the bottom of the screen there, phone number, and fultonco.com is your website. So any comments or questions, give Matt a shout and he can help you out. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt. We'll be right back after a break.